So I think the question of art is a very interesting one, because I create, and then the fact that it is being observed by other people makes it art. Or does that make it art? But yeah, I've always created since I was a child, which I think a lot of children do naturally. It's within our nature. And for me, it's something that's been an innate part of me that I cannot separate from my personality, from my essence, from my processing what it means to be here as a human within this body, within having this mind. When I was very young, I created in different ways. I moved my body very intuitively, which I can see today as an adult. I draw from within my practice. I've learned a lot of techniques over the years, which allows me to, I guess, guide that innate part into something that we call art. I also have this same process within my paintings, my drawings, when I write, within all the forms of art that I create within. And it's always been a part of me. When I was a teenager, I used art as a means to process my mental health, I would say. So I would feel chaos going through puberty, and I needed to express it somewhere. And I found that art was a place where I could do that. And I found that there was this energy within me that needed to come out. And so that is where my creative process really birthed from. I'm drawn to oil painting because of the tactility of it. I am trained within this area as well. I'm also really drawn to movement practices because I find them very somatic, and it's a very natural form of expression for me. My work really starts from within and it comes out into the material world. However, anything that is from within is always going to be touched by the external world. So whatever I may hear, see, feel, whatever my senses are capable of picking up, that may be different artists, different colors, different musicians, different conversations, different food, relationships, all of this, it embeds itself within my work. The older I get, the more I connect with my path as an artist, which is being more genuine in acknowledging the path of an artist, which is, in my opinion, it is that I guess artists all have different paths, but it is this ability to share, and it is this ability to enable others to see the world through their senses in different ways. Yeah, so my work connects subjectively to different things going on in my life, and then it will connect with other parts of the human experience. And as a woman artist, a lot of my work then conveys my experience as a woman, an expressive artist, and therefore I feel that I'm sharing an ability for others to see expression as I express. I'm not specifically wanting people to see one thing, but to be open to their interpretation. Of course, I can guide the viewers, but I feel that it's very important for people to feel what they are feeling when they are experiencing my work. As an artist, I feel that I am very privileged in that I express through varying techniques, which gives me this ability to continuously create. I'm never not making art, and so I don't find in this moment of time that there's any issues of me making art. I think that my biggest struggles may be that I want to create so much that it's the slowing down the pace to maybe be on one project to yeah, I don't know, it's a difficult thing. I don't specifically feel that I struggle as an artist, except for the typical things as an artist, which is that we live in a world where there's consumerism, and so there's of course these dilemmas as an artist where you're always questioning, how do you make your work? Do you make it for the consumer? Do you make it for yourself? Or do you make it for the creative expression that's within you, that wants to be expressed outwardly? Because this is where I feel very privileged that I've always created in this way. I know as a younger artist, I felt this draw towards the need to survive as an artist as well. So I guess my struggle can be this dilemma between being a commercial artist and being an artist for my creative expression. So in 2021, I returned home to Australia after several years in Iceland, where I was inevitably, I was trapped in Iceland, and I went through an enormous growth through facing my trauma, through living in trauma whilst being trapped in Iceland because of domestic violence. And then when I returned home to Australia, I felt that I was very connected to the story of Persephone and her experience of going into the underworld and returning home. And in myself, I felt that I had been in the underworld in Iceland, partly because of the landscape of Iceland is very of another world, there's not so many trees, it's very different to Australia. Australia is my birthland, and it is where there's an enormous amount of life. There's constant sounds, there's insects, there's birds, there's so much happening constantly. And it's a very drastic difference. And I felt that there was this beautiful story where there's the seasons with Persephone. So I looked into her story, or her story came forward to me through readings and musing through different forms of media. And I came across her story as Kore, and her original story, which I'm still looking further into, but I was drawn to her name not being Persephone, and her story being more that she was whole and she divided herself into two to experience herself as the other. And then I connected this story with the Jungian Carl Jung, his philosophy of the shadow and the feminine, the shadow feminine, and my experience in Iceland being that it was my shadow feminine, the subconscious self, and exploring that part of myself. And now I return home to Australia, my conscious self changed, and reflecting on that, I felt that I needed to create something that represented this return. And the medium cyanotype printing came forward to me as the best medium to use, because I could create something that printed my surroundings, that printed me. And it was, I guess it's this present time, because with my paintings it comes so much from within. It's very expressive, it's not always very ordered, and it's more abstract. These works are still quite abstract in form, but they hold the form of my body, the form of the nature around me, and they also feel as if they're underwater or in this underworld, and yet I've returned. So I was drawn to creating this body of work in a sort of not therapeutic, but kind of therapeutic way, but also to make a point of a transition in time, and which a lot of my work is about, transitioning through time and making that a visual picture. In 2015, I performed at the Venice Biennale for the first time, and I felt that it was a very important moment in time for my process. In 2016, it was the first time that I performed and exhibited works on the wall at the same time, and it was actually with the gallery in the Bodrum. And so it's very interesting for me to perform again in the gallery space now in Istanbul, and for this work to be more connected to the works on, the performance work to be more connected to the works on the wall, because in 2016 the performance was not as connected, although it was, but the colours were a bit different. I was using charcoal, then I'm using pastels and acrylic this year on the performance that I made with A Return to Kore, and I've chosen the same colour. The reason that I chose blue to do the performance was that I wanted to connect the colour from the cyanotype to the performance. So it was as if I was re-emerging myself into this underworld, into this blank canvas, this blank space, and rising up and being inspired intuitively by the works on the wall to present my body in the similar positions that I have to create these prints back home in Australia, but here in a live performance in Istanbul, whilst drawing around my body with the blue acrylic and the blue pastels. I felt that it was really important to perform this with the works hanging on the wall, also as a means to display that cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth, which these works on the wall are discussing visually. It was very moving for me to perform this within the space of the hanging works and with the audience here and here in Istanbul, after spending 3 weeks in Istanbul, because of course being in this space that is so much about this cycle of birth, life, death, and rebirth. I sense it within the space because of the vast history here in Istanbul, in Turkey in general, for our humanity around the world. I mean, so much has birthed here in Turkey. So it was a very important performance for me to do with the works on the wall, also for me to live that message that is within the works hanging on the wall and to process it through my body. So Mina Art Gallery is my gallery here in Turkey, and I'm so proud to be represented by such an amazing group of people within this space. I feel inspired by the gallery space. This is my first time coming to the Istanbul branch. I had been to the Bodrum branch before, and both spaces are very unique, I feel. I feel that my relationship with the gallery is very special. I always feel very supported, and I feel that as an international artist coming here, it's a very, I feel welcomed. I feel that I am Turkish in some ways in how I am received and how the culture is received, is shared with me. And also, I love all the artists that are represented with the gallery. I was able to meet a lot of the artists at my exhibition, and I only wish that I could be here for more artists' openings, because all of the artists are very exciting. And as an international artist exhibiting in many countries, it's one of my favorite places to come now, and I'm so excited to come back.